where we didn't have rain for almost a month. It has not recovered, and the dandelions have taken over and stuff. So I don't. My neighbors, they have like they're very meticulous about their grass. It looks great. Up next to ours, they're probably very angry every time they have to look in my
yard. But it's crazy because you guys got all that rain like a year ago or 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden you're in a drought.
Yeah, dude. I think last year I don't know how many days in a row we had rain, but I mean it rained every day. It probably over a month straight we got rain. And it was wild. And now we've gone through it's been raining here a little bit off and on now, but yeah, we went through almost a month with no rain.
We're supposed to have super El Nino this year. You ready for that, Luke? We're supposed to have super El Nino, so we'll see what that means.
That's what I've heard. I don't even know what that means anymore.
Well, of course, according to Chris Farley, would be the very big Nino.
Is that from a movie? Well, I don't recognize.
As an SNL skit, he was like, "I'm El Nino, and for you non-Spanish speakers, that means the Nino." It was actually pretty funny. A lot funnier when I just relate it. But.
Speaking of Ninos, summer break is BS for kids for multiple reasons. There should be no summer break. There should be no summer break.
Okay, I'm good with that.
It's outdated. Oh, you guys good with it now? Y'all were texting, going off on it earlier, and you're like, oh, cool.
I know. That's why we're agreeing that there should be no summer break. I hate this time of year. As far as kids and stuff.
They should get rid of summer break. They should go to year-round school.
Like 2 weeks off for Christmas, 2 weeks off around 4th of July.
Something. Because it's summertime, man. You can't get in anywhere. Everywhere you go, it's packed with, it's packed with teenagers and, school-age kids. Like, don't try and go see a movie or anything. If you got to go to the movie, you got to do, the Blue Plate special and go see the matinee at, 2 o'clock on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So... I got to do that anyway because I'm asleep by 8 every night. So
you know where that came from? Summer break, right?
Where?
It's from back when it was primarily agricultural.
Yeah, that's right.
So that all the kids could be home and not going to school during the planting and harvest season. And daylight savings.
What's crazy is out here they do. School all year round. And I actually think they go less than what they do back east. And it's nuts, dude. It's like every Wednesday is a half day. Every other Friday's off. They do the 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. It's like, and by the time you get, dude, I don't know how the parents do it. Because by the time you get done with it, it's like my kid, your kid goes to school 3 days a week.
There seems to be a lot more of that. And I think it has something to do with COVID. I should go back and see pre-COVID, teacher planning days off, stuff like that. Because I remember in school, you had the occasional teacher planning day. You might have 2 per year, 2 per school year. That was it. It seems like every other week there's a teacher planning day, or like you said, there's a half day, whatever. Dude, it was your kids today's, man. It's like you'd be in an 18th Airborne Corps. You got a 4-day weekend every time you turn around for something. And if there's not a holiday that month, they're just going to make one up.
Dude, the first 6 months I was at Bragg, speaking of that, the first 6 months I was there, I had more days off than days working. Because there were always those 3-day passes and training holiday or whatever they'd call them, plus holidays. It was ridiculous. I was like, this is kind of great.
Yeah. It's this is actually a pretty good deal.
School's just there to prop up the daycare industry.
Especially the Somali daycare industry.
Well,
which I hear is pretty lucrative. I feel like a clown going to work, getting up and working every day when I could have just opened up a Somali daycare.
Leering center.
Millions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you go into that business, I'll go into the hospice business.
Yes. Yeah. Hospice is another one.
Get that Medicare money.
Yeah,
Medicaid
that Medicare money.
Is it Medicaid?
180 days. That's the school days here where I live. Kids go to school 180 days. So
6 months.
Yeah.
Wow. No wonder Arizona's.
Yep.
Dude,
Well, you know
Arizona
what
back.
though? That's why the charter schools are so big out here. Parents know, man, you go to public school for the most part, it's ash and trash. And so it's like, hey, there's a wait list to get into the charter schools. Like we wanted to put our kids in one of the charter schools by the house, but there's like a 6-month wait list in there, and they do more traditional. I think the one down the street from us, they go 4 days a week, but dude, it's like they're 4 days, it's all day. And you get your 1 hour PT, and it's, actual school versus, what they do now in public school, at least out here.
They have school choice there in Arizona. They have it in Texas.
Yeah. And it's huge. There's, I don't get it. So we have what they call the ESAs, the Empowerment Scholarship, whatever it is, or whatever the hell it's called, but basically school choice. And so the money follows the kid. And what they assume, and this is the Democrats, right? The people on the left, what they assume is if your kid goes to a charter school or a private school, then they come from a rich family. And it's like, well, no, sometimes that family, especially if you're, your parents are foreigners or immigrants or whatever, a lot of times they're working 2 or 3 jobs to make sure their kids have a better life than they do. And I think I pulled something up from like the Goldwater Institute, which is it's a right-wing think tank, but it's like 66% of the people their families receive some type of financial aid. So it's like, well, no, they're not all rich. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There are some like that. But when you look at your run-of-the-mill charter schools and private schools that people are going to, it's just like, that, hey, education is going to be one factor to success. And as parents, you're going to do everything you can to make sure that your kid has the right head start in life. But what I don't understand is, like, if you're a liberal or a Democrat or progressive or social, whatever the hell they're calling themselves today, like, why do you care where I send my kid to school? Like, if I want you want your kid to go to shitty public school and learn about LGBTQIA plus 4 VDF, go do that, man. I couldn't care less. But if I want my kid to go get a quality education from a school that aligns with my beliefs, why do you care?
You just said it. Because you're taking your kid out of their indoctrination center.
Yeah.
And that's one less kid that, they can groom.
Probably something to that. And I used to think it was the money, but it's not the money, because the money's there. I mean, it's not going to matter. It's like, they say the money follows the student. I don't know about all that. I mean, they get their budgets and its percentages, and it's in the millions and millions of dollars. Of course, now they're talking about, what the left is doing is how much fraud is in the ESA program. And like, okay, all fraud's bad. Let's get that up front. And maybe if we were the Leering Center, the fraud there is a little bit greater than other places. But, when they look at fraud in the ESA program, it's like 1% compared to, like, when you look at just state, somebody pulled it up the other day, when you look at state government offices, they're like an estimated like 25% fraud. County is like 17% fraud. I mean, dude, but they're worried about my kid going to a private school. And the fact that, I shouldn't be able to take that public money because, I should just be able to afford. Well, you know what? If you're, and Luca like this, if you weren't eating your $28 lunches, maybe you too could afford to send your kid to private school.
Yeah, the internet went nuts for those of y'all who are not on X or whatever. What's his name? O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary said something about, it's insane that, somebody on a $70,000 a year income would be eating $28 lunches. And man, the internet or the X at least, exploded over that. And it's, I agree with him. Number one, I absolutely agree with him. If you're making $70,000 a year, and that presupposes a lot of things, right? That you're eating lunch every day at $28, and I'm here to tell you that is completely possible. I mean, once every other week or so, some coworkers or some, partners will go out to lunch there downtown, and we go to 1 to 2, 3 places, and it is definitely possible to run up a $28 tab at lunch. It's a nice sit down restaurant. Sure. Get a burger and maybe an iced tea, and definitely if you put drinks on that, but we don't obviously at lunch anymore. Don't live in Europe anymore. But
yeah, we don't either. We don't put drinks on our lunch either. Whatever, dude.
But yeah, so anywhere from $18 to $23 plus a tip, and you're looking at coming up on $28. And a lot of people now, we're known as boomers, guys, by the way. Anytime you tell a kid, hey, maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should maybe take your lunch or eat at a cheaper place. Okay, boomer, you don't have it as hard as me. And it just blew up, man. Blew up from there. And so, Josh, I typed in to Grok on for $100 at your average grocery store, average out the prices, draw me up a grocery list to feed a family of 4 lunch for 5 days. I think it was 5 days. And, it was a pretty solid list, man. It wasn't all just sandwiches. It was, good stuff, So it's totally possible, but, we got pushback on that too. Oh, because
people want their McDonald's every day. That's the thing.
Well,
and they're totally missing your point. And they're totally missing Kevin O'Leary's point. And what they don't understand is they're actually making his point for him. It's like, hey, it's not that you can't go out and have the occasional $28 lunch, but like there are some financial decisions you need to make. Hey, if I want to buy a home and my income is X amount, then maybe I need to do other things to save that money. Right. You look at the $28. I mean, even now I don't buy $28. I mean, it's funny you were talking about the $100 list because I'm going to do some lamb curry this week. So I got 2 pounds of lamb and, rice and this and that. Dude, all of it came to it was under $40.
Was lamb
easily cheap? Yeah, lamb out here, because we import from Australia. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but we import it from Australia. So 4 pounds of lamb was $30, $29, something like that.
And yeah, lamb. I didn't mean to cut you off, but lamb and pork, lamb and pork are very inexpensive. Well, since you said lamb, but pork is very inexpensive. Yeah. Just a pork butt or a tenderloin. It's just very
beef is what's gone up a lot. At least out here where we're at, beef has gone up a lot. Beef, bison, pork is cheap. Chicken's cheap. Lamb. But anyway, point being, back to your post, it's like they missed the whole point of that. And it pisses me off because they sit here and say, well, you guys had it easier and, this and that. And, I mean, we don't have to go back to the Carter years with 13, 14%, mortgage interest, that type of stuff. But it's like, hey, they sit there and complain about that. Well, if that's just what they spend for lunch, what the hell are they spending for a total day's worth of food? Are they literally spending $100 worth a day on food? As they sit there with their $1,200 iPhone, their $150 cell phone service, their $8 macchiato. It's like, dude, don't come at me with that stuff. I mean, it's like, hey, people prioritize what they want and you spend your money on what you want.
I mean, I acknowledge that. I will acknowledge this, that times are definitely, it's hard to say, man, because I don't remember, I told you guys in the text, I was like, the Army was looking pretty good back in the late 90s. It was like, I won't be making that much money. And I got my first paycheck in the Army. I was like, oof, this was a mistake. But it's hard. It's hard for me to say, being in my mid-20s in the Army, but living in the barracks, Josh, my first assignment at Fort Carson, dude, I didn't really have any bills or nothing. The chow hall was so bad, I'd buy my own food. I'd eat out occasionally, but I didn't have any money left over.
Well, let me ask you this, both of you, this
$600 a month. What was it? When $700 a month?
When you guys were privates in the Army, how much scotch did you drink?
0.
None.
Why?
I
couldn't afford it.
That's the fucking point.
It was Cuervo. It was Cuervo, Jack Daniels, mainly beer, and
we were drinking shitty Natty Light because you couldn't afford the other stuff.
Yeah. It was beer. Like that's what I drank almost just exclusively, when I was a private, with beer, and it was beer from Smoke Bomb Hill, Class 6. Walk in there and you grab a 12-pack or a 24-pack of either a Bud Light or Coors Light or something something priced around that. They're bro. I wasn't going to the Class 6 and pulling scotch off the shelf.
Now, in all fairness, I mean, Luke still drinks that shit, but that's by choice, right?
I moved on from Keystone. Gotta give me
Banquets.
that. I moved on from Keystone, but
bro, Keystone was tough.
it's just again, it's hard to compare because you don't really remember, and I obviously not living the life of mid to late 20s. But I'll say it, I didn't buy my first house till I was in my late 30s. So, but we can definitely. There's a lot to talk about with this for sure.
I don't know, man. So the whole $28 lunch thing. One, Kevin O'Leary, people are like, even some people are like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to money. Okay, so first off, Kevin O'Leary is a multi-billionaire. The guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to money. It comes to investing. And he gives, his YouTube channels littered with, videos of him talking about this is how you should be investing, this, that, and the other. But the same thing with Dave Ramsey. People are like, well, Dave Ramsey doesn't know what he's talking about because he went bankrupt. It's like, yeah, Dave Ramsey went bankrupt, and guess what he is? He's no longer bankrupt. He's not poor. The dude's a multimillionaire. So I don't know, man, you should probably listen to him instead of, poo-pooing on him while you sit there on your $1,200 phone and you're double wide talking about how Dave Ramsey doesn't know what he's talking about. So the whole $28 lunch thing here, part of the problem is that, and we've talked about this before, a lot of, and I'm going to say Gen Z, because that was a lot of the ones that were, piping off in there. They want what their parents have now. They want to move out when they're 18. They want to move out when they want to graduate college at 22 years old, have a house with a pool, right? Couple decent, reliable cars in the driveway, and be able to go out and, go play disc golf and go to Extra and go get their $7 coffee every morning and go out there to their $28 lunch every day with their coworkers. And it's like, one, I don't do that now. Right. And number two, everybody wants to take part in success. Nobody wants to walk the road that it takes to get there. Right. Everybody wants to come to the party. Nobody wants to stay help clean up.
They're entitled.
So like, yeah, no, they're absolutely entitled. And part of that, maybe it's, not necessarily, not it's in here, but, part of that, maybe parents spoil them. I don't know. But at the end of the day, what they don't see are the days that, I sat in a plasma donation center so I could have gas money. They don't see that.
I've been
We've
there.
all done that.
Yeah, right. They don't see that. They don't see that when we lived in San Antonio, going to Super Salad, which is not great, right? The place is terrible. And it was like $8 a person. All you can eat soup, all you can eat salad. That was a luxury. We were like, oh man, this is a great day. It's payday to go spend $8, to have some.
You can actually get full.
Exactly. They don't see that. They don't see, growing up, dude, when I was a kid, they don't see the whole, like, you didn't see the inside of a restaurant unless it was your birthday or somebody died. And then if somebody died, it was Western Sizzlin' or Quincy's. If it was your birthday, you got to pick within reason. And if it was more expensive than Sonny's Barbecue, you weren't going. There was no Olive Garden. There was no nothing like that when I was a kid because that was too expensive. So when I hear people complain about like, well, I'm not going to eat like I'm poor. I'm not going to, you've automatically lost me, right? You have automatically lost me. And then when you tell me that I don't know what it's like to have to work for something, that you 100% lost me, because all of us and a lot of our listeners have worked like dogs. We've gone to work when normal people would have been in the hospital. We got up and went to work. We didn't have a choice because it was either that or you can just be poor and, stay in your position and keep living on this dirt road. But it really loses me when they go down that line. On the flip side, though, shit's expensive. And I'm not talking about lunches. I'm talking about just things in general. Shit is more expensive today than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It just is. Right?
Yes, definitely. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Are you standing up? Are you at a Veridesk?
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Well, my desk, it broke. It won't go down. So it's a standing desk now.
I'm with Josh. 100. I think we've said it on the podcast before when I lectured my kids in 2012 on. It's 2012, dude. That's 14 years ago. It's a long ass time ago, man. And I broke it down for them on the whiteboard. It might not have been 2012. It might have been like 2013. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I broke down for them. This is how you live now. And I broke down, and let's divide by 4. Okay. With the direct TV we had, the internet, your phones, the car insurance, everything. Like I broke it all down. It divided it by 4 and multiplied it, monthly, and multiplied it by 12. And that's not even saving or you're walking around money. And even back then, they would have had to come into the job market at about $70,000 a year with zero debt. I didn't even factor in the debt we had at the time, but I did figure in the mortgage and things like that. That's a pretty good job entering the job market. 70,000 is pretty good. So that's directly to Josh's point. It's like, to maintain what you have right now, this is what you'll have to make, right? And it won't be in a house like this. I can promise you that. Yeah, I saw Kyle Busch just die. That's sad, man. That
What
is
did he die of?
really sad. I don't know. I just saw it come across, but back to, we can talk about NASCAR.
Sorry.
Right at the end, so that Ted can check out. But that was so great about Gen Z, and I don't know if the boomers were like this or not, but I had my first paper route. I think I was 11, 12 years old, and then it's the day I turned 16. It's like we had a competition. My friends, Scott, Chris, Michael, Mike, the 2 Jeffs. We had this like competition on who could work the most, like who got the most hours. It wasn't even about the money. It really wasn't. It wasn't. Nobody ever asked how much you make an hour. Sometimes, but it's more like how much you work last week. Oh, I got 18 hours. Oh, you're a bitch. I worked 28. And we just could not wait. I mean, maybe you guys are different, and you probably all 3 probably came up different, but most of the Gen Xers just could not wait to get out of the house and be on their own.
Heck
Because
yeah.
we were on our own so much anyway. And I think we recognized, at least I did, I'm not going to have it as good as I did. It is going to be a bit of a struggle for a while. And I don't know. I think we're built different. And like Josh said, it could be because the kids are spoiled or their expectation meter is all off. But it's just, it's kind of crazy. One more thing. When I was in high school, working so much, not even before I worked, when I was a freshman and a little bit into my sophomore year, my parents would give me $2 a day for lunch if we didn't pack it, right? If we didn't have stuff in the pantry to get the lunch tray, they give me $2 a day. And I realized after buying my first lunch at the cafeteria, it only cost about $1.40. So I pocketed 60 cents. So I was like, well, hell, I'll just take something like some random, a few crackers and pocket that $2. So I would starve myself during the day just to pocket that $2. You know what? It started to add up. At the end of the year, I had like $70. It's pretty good, man. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like I was willing to not eat to pocket $2.
A lot of it has to do with the instant gratification thing, right? It's instant gratification because that's the world that they live in. That's the world they grew up in. Dude, when we took pictures, you didn't know how it was going to turn out until you got the film developed.
Yeah.
If it came out as a terrible picture, guess what? That's what you got. Right now, it's like, and dude, I love my kids, but dude, taking prom photos, taking, like it's an absolute nightmare. It's a thing. It's an ordeal because, oh no, we got to redo this one because somebody's got their eyes closed. Oh no, got to redo it because I don't like that one. And you wound up, dude, for our youngest daughter, so she just had prom. We took over 500 photos. We did the shared album. There were over 500 photos in there. And we were at the, where she wanted to get her pictures done at. Dude, we were there for like 3 hours.
Oh,
and after the first hour, I was just like, I'm going to go lay down in traffic because this is absolutely miserable. I don't think I have, I think I have 2 pictures from my senior prom, and I don't even know where they are.
I think I had one, but I think that's gone. And that was the
Yeah,
picture they took of, the two of us standing there.
yeah, but
Dude,
it's
remember like the yearbook pictures? Like you didn't know what that shit looked like until it came
Yeah.
out. And you're like,
yeah,
fuck.
dude. Exactly. You get it. You look all jacked up, but it's the instant gratification. It's like I want to watch something. Well, you go on to pick your streaming service, you search for it and watch it. Dude, when we grew up, you wanted to watch something and you missed it. Well, you better look in the TV guide, brother. See when it's coming back around. And if it was like a holiday thing, we'll catch you next year. Yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with that instant gratification. Like, I want this now and I need this now. It's like, no, like that's not how life works.
Well, because they have more air quoting for those listeners, necessities, right? And it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like, one, I think we valued freedom. So when we left the house,
Yes.
it's like, really, if I could afford a microwave and a 13-inch TV, I pretty much had what I had at home. Now, not the same comfort level, obviously, in space and this and that, but that's kind of what I had as far as amenities go. And when you look at it now, kids aren't wanting to leave the house, even though they, some of them want to, but I can't afford a mortgage. Well, no, it's because you got the Netflix and the Apple TV and the Wi-Fi and the cell phone and Direct TV and all the other, BS at the house. And those are things that, like, again, it goes back to why we didn't buy scotch when we were younger. You didn't have money for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, man, they gotta figure it out. And two, like, we got to figure it out because prices are ridiculous right now. I'll tell you right now, I'm still paying $4.28 for gas, for a gallon of gas. That's ridiculous.
I know
That's
you want to
absolutely
get
ridiculous.
I know you want to get to Trump, but what? One more thing, I guess, and I almost lost my train of thought right there. So, how long is it going to be till they start blaming Gen X? And how, I think the advantage we have are there are relatively so few Gen Zers compared to Gen Xers and definitely Boomers. But they're already lumping us in with Boomers. They always forgot who we were anyway. But they're going to blame us, dude. They're going to blame us, and they are going to not that the three of us ever count on Social Security. We've already talked about that. But they're gonna slash everything they can. They're going to definitely continue to make us pay property tax, depending on the state. All this stuff. But you know what they will do is they will fight like hell to abolish the death tax or the inheritance tax.
Oh yeah, no. Hey, you got brother, you gotta have that. You gotta have that inheritance tax in the, because how are they gonna get their $28 lunch? It's Gen Z's always been the forgotten generation, or Gen X. Sorry, Gen X has always been the forgotten generation because it's always like, oh boomers, and then it was like, then for some reason everybody was like boomers, and then millennials. It's like, hey, there's a generation in between that hate you both, right? Generally speaking, hate you both. Not all boomers, right? But some there are some boomers out there. You're like, man, you just need to go away. I think that they're absolutely going to blame us, but there's still enough boomers around right now that they can hate on them. And then, but like you said, they are eventually going to get to us, but they're going to still call us boomers because they're not smart enough to understand that we're not boomers. And look, at the end of the day, I'm sorry that you're Gen Z. I'm sorry that this was the time that you were put on this earth. If it makes you feel any better, I always feel like I was born 100 years too late. So, it is what it is. I had it a little bit easier than my parents. My parents had it a little bit easier than my grandparents, and so on and so forth. And you're going to have it a little bit easier than we did. Not easy, but you're going to have it easier, right? So, take that and either continue to rage post on your $1,200 supercomputer that you carry around in your pocket while you're drinking your $7 latte from your local coffee shop while you complain about, not having any money. Okay, cool.
What? So, but both of you guys got married fairly early, I think. Right?
Yeah, 2002 for me.
How old were you?
I think I was 25.
And you,
That's
Roger?
25. 25.
Okay. So did y'all well, I know Roger didn't, but Josh, did you marry and move out of the barracks and into a house, or were you already like have an apartment or something?
No, I already lived outpost.
Okay.
So I was stationed in Puerto Rico when we got married. And dude, I had a condo on the beach in East Verde.
Question what I was getting to in that is, I had a lot of time to learn, other than, what my parents taught me cooking, but my parents weren't real big cooks. They did cook, but I'm stopping short of saying that they weren't good cooks. I'll put it to you that way, because I know that they listen. There wasn't a lot of variety. It was good though. They kept us alive, and I'm digging myself a hole. Put it to you this way: as an adult, learning to cook on your own as an adult, when did you start that?
For me, not for a while, honestly, because that was always like my wife's like, I got that right. And
but when you were by yourself, were you?
When I was by myself, yeah. No, dude, I ate like a complete asshole when I was by myself. When I was single, living in the barracks, it was like I would go to the grocery store, and I say the grocery store, I go to the commissary, and I'd have these ideas of what I wanted to cook and what I wanted to do. And then I get to the grocery store and I realized that it was a whole lot of work. And so it was like cup of noodles. Dude, I ate like a college student. Like I thought putting like a dollop of mayonnaise in your ramen, putting some hot sauce on it, and throwing some oyster crackers in it and mixing
That's
it all
some
up.
Gourmet shit right there.
Bro, I was like,
it's like Salt Bay.
Yeah, bro, I was high living, right? I was high living. And now I see these like gourmet ramen places that do the same thing. I was just before my time. But yeah, I ate pizza. I ate like an asshole before I got married.
You really couldn't cook in the barracks. Like when I was in college, if I had a little efficiency or something like that, it wasn't anything fancy. Definitely wasn't anything fancy. That's what I'll give my kids, man, is they know how to cook. And that's because of their mom. She's a pretty good cook. But yeah, it was kind of the same thing. Definitely in Europe, though, I did kind of expand my cooking repertoire. My point is, I've never been afraid of cooking. After we get off this, like Roger, I'm bacheloring it for a few days. I'm gonna go cook something in the kitchen. I'm gonna make myself some shepherd's pie, and I'm gonna make not from scratch. I'm gonna cut corners on a few things, but I'm not scared of it. Never have been, man. In fact, it's better,
and it's so much cheaper. Much cheaper in the long run. You get your meal
in the long run.
And leftovers, healthier, for all those people that were bitching about, that's the crazy thing is you want us to eat PB and J, well, you're out there eating processed foods anyway. What's the difference? This is just a lot cheaper than what you're doing. But, I remember my wife paying the bills and saying, my dad always said, pay your bills first, right? Pay your bills first, pay yourself second. Because if you pay your bills first, you can always get more money. So my wife would pay the bills. I'm like, and I specifically remember this. We were younger on, like how much money we got? She's like $33, and we got paid, every 2 weeks. Right. And I'm like, man, I got to drive. I got kids, she's got to eat. Dude, I was in the Army. I was a recruiter at the time. I took a rice cooker with me to work, not just because I'm Asian, but because I knew, but I took a rice cooker with some of the gochujang red bean paste. And I'm like, because I know I can make a pot of rice that will last me all week. I already had the rice. It's free because rice is free for all Asians. So I just put it in there. I cook it. I eat it. It's like, that's what I ate, man. You do what you got to do to make ends meet.
Oh, did you name your rice cooker like Fat Man or Little Boy? You right on the side of it, like Fat Man or Little Boy?
No, I was actually kind of sad though, because when my wife married me, so I lived in the barracks, right? And when she married me, dude, I had a rice cooker, a George Foreman grill, a fork, a spoon, and a bowl, right? So we couldn't even have like a picnic together to eat together because we'd have to share the utensils. But I was sad because it was about 4 years. No, maybe it was a little bit longer than that, man. My George Foreman girl died. I mean, that some bitch made it like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's
my
like a
George
toaster
Foreman
oven,
girl.
man.
And dude, it wasn't even like the big George Foreman grill. It was like the Bachelor George Foreman grill.
Yeah.
So I had that little thing.
Patty on it.
Yeah, and then my rice cooker died. I'm like, and I got that from Korea, dude. That was like in '97.
Dude, that thing was authentic.
Dude, it was bulletproof, dude. Well, for a while.
Yeah, it's and even after I got married. So a couple things happened right after I got married, right? So one, I came home one day and we had a set of silverware. Because, much like you, I think I had like, a fork or two, and it was probably plastic ones that I grabbed from whatever fast food place.
Yeah, it's all been up.
Right. So I came home, there was silverware and a set of dishes because there was no, like set, I have, a serving for 8 or whatever. Right. And then shortly thereafter, so I go TDY to South America. I come back. Wife picks me up from the airport there in San Juan, and we start driving. Now, to go to Fort Buchanan, you go one way. To go to where we lived at, you go the opposite way. So we go like we're heading to Fort Buchanan. I looked at it, I was like, where are we going? Because it's like 9:00 at night. And she was like, we're going home. I was like, what? Didn't you want to take the other one? She goes, no, we don't live there anymore. She moved us on post.
Wow.
Because on post housing, it's free.
Yep.
On post housing, there was you didn't pay a mortgage, you didn't pay utilities, anything like that. Yeah, well, it used to be before they privatized everything. But dude, for our condo, I think I was paying, and I was an E5, and it was me. I was stupid, right? Dude, I had to come out of pocket to cover the BAH on it, right? To cover the rent on it every month because my BAH didn't cover it. And everything. And so she was just like, no, like, what do you do? Like, we're not doing that. And so, yeah, it was nice. It was right on the beach, super nice place. But she's like, we're not doing that because she's like, we're going to be broke all the time. Like, no, absolutely not. Like every dollar counts. And so I was poo-poo face for a little bit, but it was like, no, this makes sense. Like she's actually way smarter than I am. She still is. So, it's like, okay, I need to listen to this woman. So dude, but while I was gone, and I was only gone 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, she went on, she drove over to Post. She was like, we need a house, blah, blah. Yep, that's the one. Got the movers, everything. And moved on. Not that the movers had us packed out, I think, of our condo, I think in like 45 minutes. Because we didn't have a lot of stuff.
She's like, I got a new house, I got a new husband. You can actually just don't even come by.
How old were you guys? How old were you guys when you got your first taste of just a little bit of disposable income, like enough to, not have to? Well, Josh y'all have so many kids as far, and you got married so young. But was there a point where, I've got a little extra money, I can go, do something nicer than usual, or buy myself something that don't usually get? How old were you? Do you remember?
That was when we were in Alaska. So, I mean, it was probably, I don't know how old, probably 27, 28. Okay. But when we went to Alaska, again, we lived on post, right? So we didn't have to deal, we didn't have an electric water bill or, mortgage or anything like that. Plus you get an extra stipend to buy cold weather stuff while you're up there. And so I took my stipend, might have $100, and I bought a couple cold weather things, and then
you just went cold.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll be cold. It's cool. No, once a month there was this place in Fairbanks. It was right on the Chaina River, and they did a brunch buffet spread, and it was killer. Like they had, it was, dude, whatever you wanted on this. Dude, you want snow crab legs? It's on their brunch buffet.
Wow.
Right. And it was $30 a person. And like that, but that was a once a month thing, maybe once every other month. But that was it. We got to go and it was like, all right. And then, once we, so we had 2 kids while we were in Alaska. So that, family came up and stuff like that. So it was like, hey, we want to take you guys. So it might be like, hey, we're not going to go this month because next month everybody's going to be here and we want to be able to treat everybody, And so, but yeah, that was probably the first time we were like, hey, we want to go for, we got a 4-day weekend. Let's drive down to Denali, stay a couple of days at a campground. Right. So I took us tent camping, and I think my wife was 7 months pregnant at the time. And we went tent camping, and she was like, really, we're going to go tent camp? I was like, well, we can't afford we can't afford an actual room at a hotel. So yeah, I was like, I'll give you my extra air pad, so, so but yeah, probably then we kind of, first time we had a little bit of, I say disposable income, but it was like, yeah, we can go out and have a nice dinner once every month or, once a month or so.
About you, Roger?
It's about the same time. Rank wise, really, like once I hit E7, and of course being a recruiter, you get the extra money as well. And a lot of that was just because like recruiting days are so long, you just didn't have time to spend money anywhere else. Right. I mean, that's one thing you learn as you get older for the youngins out there is that, everybody likes time off. The problem with time off is you spend money.
Yeah.
When you know, it costs a lot of money to have a lot of time off, right? Because you get bored, you want to go out and do things. And with recruiting, we had the extra money, for the job, but also, I mean, I worked 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. So you just didn't have time to spend anything. So much like Josh, we get to the point where, okay, we could actually go have a nice dinner or, splurge a little bit on an anniversary or something like that. So, the disposable income wasn't constant. It's not like you could do it every day or even every week. But, we got to, and I lived out in Tucson at the time. So we got to like every 4 months, we could go out to Vegas, and we'd go out back then, we'd go out with like $500, right? It's like, hey, $500, we, pay for the hotel room, and that would last us the weekend. And that was kind of like our splurge,
I think it was about 2003 for me over in Europe, but that also coincided with all those deployments that started coming up. And when I first lived in Europe, I was kind of in South Holland, and there really wasn't much to do. Everybody in the office was married, and I was the only single person in the entire office. Europeans are weird, and I just didn't like hanging out with them at first. And so I got myself an online game and played that instead of going out on the weekends, and plus the deployment money, and plus, I was E6 at the time. But then, dude, when I made E7, dude, I thought I was rolling in it, man. I mean, it was just like I was getting clothes now, trying to be stylish and everything, which didn't work out. But, my uncle said something to me a long time ago, man, a long time ago. Uncle's always been really good with money. And he said, after he retired years ago. And he goes, look, life's pretty good for me. They live in a modest house here in Amarillo. And he goes, life's pretty good. I can pay my bills. I drive a decent car, and he drives like a Toyota RAV4. It's like, but he said, and you know what? And this is what really hit me back then. And back then I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, and I can go to the grocery store and I can just buy whatever I want. And I was like, well, that's not it. But nowadays, dude, that means a lot. When you can go to the store, if you can go to the store and not really have to truly worry about it. I get what you're saying, Josh. I totally understand. It's like you fill your cart halfway up and it's twice as much as it was 10 years ago. Yeah, that's an ass kicker. But at the same time, it's nice to go in there and be like, I don't have to worry about this. I remember Michelle telling me stories, when the kids were little and stuff, that she would go to the store and then, she'd get everything, nothing over the top, and card would decline. It wasn't enough in the checking account. So she'd have to move a few items off. And then that breaks my heart, dude. That's the worst thing. That's so bad. But that's a kind of pretty big deal, man. You go to the store, you can just buy whatever you want at the grocery store. It is that, but that, again, that's the three of us. I know, with the exception of Roger, we don't have super expensive tastes. Not
whatever,
over the top.
No, I think I have expensive taste, but it ends up saving me money in the long run, which is why I do it.
It's when it comes down to the whole look, man, when I go to the grocery store, and again, right, so I'm very blessed. I have been very, very blessed, even growing up, right, when it's like, can I have another helping? It's like, no, you've had plenty, right? There really weren't seconds, because mom generally made, and this is
tell you that now.
Right, dude, you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
I'm just kidding.
No, man, no, you're right. I
Not
walked
really.
past I got out of the shower the other day, walked past the mirror, was like, ooh, okay. Had a long, hard talk with Josh in the mirror. And so, but like growing up, mom always made a little bit of extra because that was dad's lunch the next day.
Mhm.
So you didn't get second. There was no going back because that now you're eating into dad's lunch, right? And so, I have been very blessed. I don't. There are things that when I go to the grocery store, there are some. Okay, no, we're not buying name brand this or name brand that. When it comes to like, we need a can of beans or can of corn or whatever, bro. That's store brand. Like that's store brand. Now some other things, peanut butter. I ain't buying store brand peanut butter.
No,
Right?
get what you pay for with that.
Exactly. So there's certain things you can buy store brand. There's certain things you don't buy store brand anyway. But what I'm trying to say is like, I don't look really hard at the prices at the store, so I'm blessed. But at the same time, we've all been there. And
it's not a stressful experience. You go into the
it's
store
not a stressful
and
experience.
checking out. Yeah.
I'm not worried about my car being declined when I check out. Right? Like it's just but again, it goes back to what did I do before to be able to have that that level of freedom, right? Not to have the stress of like my card's going to get declined at the grocery store. No, because I did things in the past, right? It's like when we were trying to evict our squatter in Maryland, we were paying 2 mortgages than being a Maryland mortgage. And next thing you know, they're worth, dude. I didn't do a whole lot of grocery shopping because my wife was like, I'll take care of the groceries. And dude, we were crunching pennies. It was down to the point to where it was, I have enough gas to get to working back this week and I can't go anywhere else. There was no, let's go see a movie. No, we didn't even have money to go take the kids to a movie because we were paying 2 mortgages, all these other, in the other bills, stuff like that. And so it was like, hey man, guess what? Dinners we're eating like we ate when we were kids. And it was, like the other night we've been doing this thing with the kids. It was like weird dinners that we had made for us as kids, right? To show you. Because again, every once in a while, you got to give them a little appreciation tour, right?
I know that looks like cardboard in your macaroni, and it might be.
So one of the meals that I had as a kid, and it's good, was like 3 or 4 bacon potatoes cubed up and a can of Spam cubed up and thrown in the fryer, right? Dad put it in a cast iron pot with a quart of peanut oil and fried it, and it was Spam and potatoes. That was the meal. So I made that the other night. Now we did it in the air fryer, because a little bit, a little bougie. Did it in the air fryer, dude. Kids hated it. Wife hated it. It was like, I can't eat this, Dad. This isn't really that good. I was like, 1, it's not that bad, and 2, that's what it was. You ate that, or guess what? You just went hungry.
You know what it is, right? Exactly. It's because they've never truly been hungry.
100%. So it just, beating the dead horse, dude. But this whole Gen Z, like, I should be able to spend $28. It's like, dude, that shit falls on deaf ears. With me, no. And you're not willing to make sacrifice. That's the thing. You're not willing to make sacrifice. If I have to be poor again, I'm good because I'm old poor. I can be poor again. I know what it's like to be poor. I'll be okay. I won't be comfortable, but I'll be okay.
So I guess they're called Zoomers, huh? Is that what they're called now? What's the Zoomer? I've seen that a couple times on X, which is pretty clever. Boomers, Zoomers. Just what's the generation for Zoomers? Let me see here. Let's ask Claude because I've been using Claude more and more now.
I like Claude.
What generation are Zoomers? I guess what year?
Yeah. It is the worst time to use any of the platforms, by the way. Gen Z, yeah. So 1990 to
2012 for Zoomers.
Yeah, 97 to 2012. Yep. Gronk said the same thing.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's again dead horse, so we could move on. We can move on to bashing Trump and talking about Massey for the next hour. But
Pine cone.
it comes down it comes down to, you know, what used to be a treat for us is status quo. You know, a treat, like Josh was saying, you know, going to Western Sizzlin'. You know, I guess I was pretty lucky because probably, well, maybe twice a month we'd go to Furr's Cafeteria, which is, you know, one of those cafeterias where you take your tray and
Yeah, I
slide
remember
it
those.
along. Yeah.
We have Morrison's
And,
cafeteria.
Yeah, same thing. And we go, you know, with church friends every other Sunday or so, but whatever. And that was a treat. That was nice. And I really, truly probably didn't appreciate it enough. Now Furr's doesn't exist and I miss it. So Josh, you're ready to go, man. I know you spent all day researching this stuff to poke holes in Rogers, you know, all of Rogers Trump MAGA love. And
No, we should have. I'm telling you, man. I know we couldn't, but we should have done this that day.
Which day? Which day?
The day we were going back and forth on text.
Which day was it?
That's like every day. That's every day.
I don't know. Whatever day we started talking about it, it is, dude. I'm telling you right now, things are more expensive, right? And
I
so
agree.
this is things are more expensive now than they were a couple of years ago. Now, I voted for Trump 3 times. I'd vote for the dude if he ran again. Right. But I haven't seen my groceries go down. And now this is anecdotal, right? Because I'm talking about where I live. But you can Grok or Claude or ChatGPT, whichever one, right? The data, and some things are cheaper, you know, than they were a couple of years ago. But we're talking basic necessities, right? And so, right, we'll start with the gas. I should not be paying $4.28 a gallon for gas. That is the most I pay for gas in my life. That's the highest gas has ever been here. All right, $4.28 a gallon. That's higher than it was in 2008, 2009. That's higher than it was during COVID. That's how, you know, that's higher than it was in 2022, 2023. And if you take a look at, you know, the national kind of, you know, the national average, it's the highest that has ever been in a year. Now, some of that is because of what's going on in Strait of Hormuz, right? You know, Luke's talked about it before, supply and demand, you know, whatever. But even then, you go back to, you know, 2025, it's still fairly high, right? The national average at that time was still over $4. And so, I mean, you can blame the Strait of Hormuz, but you can only blame that for so long. It's like taking over a new position. It's like you can only blame the last guy for so long. And then after a while, guess what? You own it. A pound of ground beef where I'm at, $6.80 something cents.
Jeez,
that's insanity for a pound of ground beef. And then we're talking about 80-20. We're not talking about 93.7. We're not talking about organic grass-fed, hand massage, you know, to the bitter end. Like we're talking about a pound of ground beef, and you're like, this is insane. Now, eggs are a little bit cheaper where I'm at, and you know, which is fantastic. And so, you know, and we try and buy, have been times where we don't, you know, we buy just regular, you know, grade A large eggs. We try and buy, you know, organic eggs when we can. We try and buy organic beef when we can. But you want a 2-pound chuck roast, just a regular 2-pound chuck roast. It's $28 to $32 for a 2-pound chuck roast. Absolutely asinine. Absolutely insane. Right? You take a look at bread. Bread's about the same it has been, so no big issue there. Milk is way more expensive than it ever has been. And so when I look at my grocery bill, again, why is my grocery bill so high? Because you can blame some of that on the Strait of Hormuz. You can't blame all that on the Strait of Hormuz. All right. And so, you know, part of Trump's campaign was, you know, hey, we're bringing everyday average prices down for Americans. Okay, cool. When is that going to happen? Because I'm not seeing it where I'm at. And based on what some of the search engines are telling me, right, when I asked them to roll up, that did like 2015 to 2025 and asked for 2026 if prices stay the same as they are right now, which I'm not even naming those prices because that's not fair because the year's not over. All right. So maybe those will change and come down. So yeah, it's just I'm not seeing where things are cheaper overall.
Anecdotal, completely anecdotal. I just for reference and context, I guess. So I hit the grocery store on my way home today, and I got 2 cans of corn, a can of peas. Hopefully, I can remember everything. 2 cans of corn, a can of peas, or some Ritz crackers, 2 things of instant mashed potatoes. Yes, you could say they're nasty, but I think they're delicious. 2 things of cheese, like just 2 packets of cheese, some sharp cheddar and some white cheddar. And I had 12-pack of Coors Light. It was $34. And when I got the total, I was like, did I ring everything up? Because I figured it'd be more than that, It was the Coors Light that took it over the top. That was probably like $14 or so. But, again, I was like, is this better or worse? I don't know. But it's like you go full groceries, multiply that by 4. I don't know, 3 or 4. My wife's a better shopper than me. I'll agree with you, Josh. I think that prices are higher across the board, have been for a while. I haven't really been paying attention, to be honest with you, at the grocery store. Gas. I'll tell you this, though. The beef prices here are not like that. Dude, fuck, man, that's crazy. A
Yeah,
pound?
it's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
insane. And you don't need to be buying that 93.7 beef either, man. This is garbage, man. Buy that 80.20. Better than that, buy that 73.20. But yeah, I haven't been paying attention. But the gas here, I filled up the other day and joked with you guys. I was like, $35 to fill up my tank. I was over half a tank. It is more. But it's between it ain't over 4 yet. I hadn't seen it over 4 yet here, but it hovers between $3.89 and $3.99 consistently up here. And with gas and all that stuff, we can talk to her blue in the face about pipelines and demand and all that stuff. But it is definitely more expensive. But I still haven't seen it. At least here and in Lubbock, I haven't seen it as much as it was. Post COVID, post stimulus, all that. It was ridiculous back then. I was even on the gas app back then, where you get the cash back and all that stuff. Because here it was like $4.28 back then. It was creeping up to $4.50 at one time. It's crazy. So I'll give you that. I mean, prices are more, except for big screen TVs, man. I don't know what those are inflation proof, man. Those big screen TVs are cheap as hell, dude. It's like $500 for the biggest TV you ever seen in your life.
Dude, it's funny. Real quick, I know Roger's going to jump in here, but you brought up big screen TV. So the TV in our room I think it's a 32-inch. We bought that in 2009, and it might be a Panasonic. It might be. I think it's a knockoff brand. It weighs like 800. It weighs the same as my grandparents' console TV did. Dude, we paid $300 for that thing in 2009, a 32-inch. I was in BJ's the other day or a couple weeks ago or whatever. I walked past. It was like a 60-something inch for like $199. And I was just like, man, damn, missed the boat on that one. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I saw a damn 100-inch, 98-inch TCL at Costco for like $980, $985.
God,
it's insane.
How many? How long?
98-inch. 98-inch. Well, what's happening is,
God,
so when you look
crazy.
at TCL, Hisense, and a couple of these other companies, from what I understand, a lot of them used to make the components for the higher end TVs, and now they're just basically going direct to consumer. So you get that big TV, but your speakers are probably cardboard. But like Southwest, they just assume, well, you probably have a sound system. right? Southwest, that's why they didn't put monitors in their planes, because like, well, everybody's got phones and tablets now. So why do we waste money on it? So,
You're not wrong.
For like our bedroom and stuff like that, I may end up pulling the trigger and seeing how it works out. But to the prices, here's the problem with the gas price is, one, gas affects everything, every sector, and people generally have a very low tolerance for higher gas prices. Now, I think overall it's for a good cause. I believe what we're doing, yada, yada, yada. It's a different conversation. But in general, people, you can go a couple of weeks with higher gas prices. Once you get to a month, 2 months, 3 months, people that commute all the time, people just generally do not have a lot of patience for higher gas. And the fact that gas and transportation is factored into every other industry and every other sector, any tick up in gas is felt across the board. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from. As far as overall year over year gas, all of last year gas was right at $3 a gallon, all the way down to $2.50 something. That I'm looking at the average here, spiked up during Hormuz. So energy, or gas specifically, has been low over the last year. What I do see, and I guess I'm kind of curious, and I throw this out there because I listen to what, and again, it's all anecdotal, right? It's what Josh sees at the grocery store. It's what I see at the grocery store. It's what Luke sees at the grocery store. It's like, so at Costco, I go buy New York strip. They're $11 a pound. Guess what? 4 years ago, they were $11 a pound. Now, what I will tell you is this: ground beef is expensive. Like if I go buy ground beef, I'm looking at $5 or $6 a pound, which I know it didn't used to be that high. My milk, I'm still at $2 a gallon, $1.98 if I go to Fry's. Eggs are stupid cheap. Chicken's stupid cheap. I mean, most of the stuff has gone back to normal here, with the exception of ground beef. If you go buy ground beef at Fry's or Safeway or whatever, you're going to pay a pretty good penny for it. Most of the other stuff, and obviously gas has gone up, and hell, dude, we pay so much money for gas out here. I think I paid, I'm over $5.50 a gallon for diesel, and a lot of that. And that brings me to the point where, and Luke, you've mentioned this before too, especially regional areas. We get our gas from California, which is stupid as fuck, right? That's why our gas prices are so high in Phoenix. I was thinking, it's like, man, we're so close to Texas. How are we paying so much? But we get our gas from California. They obviously have their own state EPA regulations. They import their oil from Venezuela, and I think they actually get some of theirs from the Strait, believe it or not. And so that's why we pay so much. However, we're finally, I don't know what took so long, 20 years later, finally deciding to build a pipeline from Texas to here. I don't know how long that takes, but, we'll drop $1 a gallon just when that thing opens up. That's glorious. So, again, inflation, everything goes up unless you expect deflation. That's going to happen. What the real gauge is versus wages. And even that's up and down, right? It's inflation. You want wages to outpace inflation because things are going to get more expensive. That's just the way it is. That's why it's called inflation. But the metric is, hey, and I haven't looked this up. I have a feeling we've probably been, I think maybe at the beginning of the year for a couple months, wages outpaced inflation. I think the last couple months it's actually fell under. I don't know what it did last year, but that's the gauge. But you know what? Again, I think there's a lot to be said for, Luke, you could probably speak to this better, but why are the prices so different everywhere else? I mean, you look at beef, where Josh is now. For you, obviously, you're in Texas, so I mean that kind of makes sense. You got a lot of ranches and this and that. But you look at the price of eggs or chicken or whatever else that Josh is paying, twice what we're paying for or what you're paying for. Like, what factors go into that? Because it is all over the place.
It's a lot of it's distribution, and like you said, with the gas, what it is, that's going to trickle down. The distribution of the groceries is a big thing. And also you kind of look at, like, I guarantee, and I'm not saying it's going to be that much cheaper, Josh, maybe you could look it up, but you go to a poorer part of Fayetteville or somewhere like that, it's probably going to be maybe even 10 cents cheaper, but that's not going to make too much of a difference. Right. There's so many factors. I don't know. And again, this is on me because I haven't really been paying attention, to prices at the grocery store. The last time I got any type of groceries at all was today. So, that's always Michelle's thing. She likes to do it. Beef, I really don't know. It's kind of strange. I don't know what, because down in Lubbock, there's HEB, United, but up here, it's basically just United. I don't know where their distribution comes from, but like with HEB, I think their distribution centers are pretty far south, so maybe HEB costs more than United. I don't know. It's one of the reasons Amazon can do so well is because they got their logistics and they've got their logistics and distribution down so pat. It's crazy, So now that Roger's gone, Josh, so how is all of this Trump's fault?
None of it is Trump's fault, per se. But it's just what is he doing to address it? What is he doing to, bring down the cost of living? So, to Roger's point, so wages generally outpaced inflation from 2015 to 2019. 2021, 2022, we all know what happened, right? I mean, inflation was pushing. They say it was 7 point whatever percent. Inflation was over 10 during COVID. Like it was over 10. They just couldn't come out and say that because there would have been anarchy, right? And so it really hasn't recovered, and we talked about it, we talked about it a lot, but they come back and they say, well, this is a really good because inflation is, this year it's, 2.6%. It's like, well, no, that's not great because that's 2.6 on top of what was already there. So
we said with the year over year.
We brought
it
year
up
over
before.
year stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. So people are like, hey, 2.6 is a great number. It's like, no, it's not, because that's actually probably 10. Right, we're probably still at 10% inflation right now today. That would be my guess. Now wages versus wage growth versus inflation have leveled out according to this in 2025. All right, so wages inflation leveled out, but we're still up. We're still way up on inflation, and I don't see it. I don't see prices coming down anytime soon. Like I said, BSing with Brandon, who was on here a while back, that you talked about a legit farmer, right? They're legit farmers. Everything is more expensive. The price of diesel, Roger, commented on the price of diesel. What do you think is going to happen this fall? And I know Luke's tracking this as well. What do you think is going to happen this fall when farmers in America go and harvest crops? All those combines and all those trucks, dropping stuff off, dropping all that corn off, taking it, to the elevators and everything. Bro, diesel is insane. And that cost is going to get passed directly down to the consumer. So I don't think we've seen the highest prices of the year yet. I truly don't.
Yeah, because it's starting now. It's not even.
Yeah.
It's starting now. Soon. It's going to start soon when it's fertilizing season, and it's different for different crops. But fertilizer right now is insane, and that it's going to get passed on. It's absolutely going to get passed on. I agree with you there.
Yeah. So I think honestly, I think we are going to see increased prices on top of what we already see come the fall, especially, like you said, in the agriculture stuff, right? Because all that, that stuff's got to get to market somehow. And how does it get to market? It gets to market by trucks. It gets harvested by tractors and gets, to market by trucks. So I don't know. I will say real quick, shout out to, before I forget. So all of our, our mutual friend, Chris, I was texting with him earlier. In fact, he's coming he's going to see you later, Luke, next month. They're taking a banger of a road trip. Yeah. Well, he said he was going to try. He said maybe you.
No, we're going to be in the same. We're going to be in the same place during that same week, Luke.
That's right.
Oh, okay. He said he was going to tell you that he was going to be there the week after. But anyway,
yeah, I was chatting with him right before he hopped on here. Yeah, we're actually going to end up being the same place at the same time. It'll be pretty cool,
dude. That's awesome. So he's taking a banger of a road trip with his wife. Out west, hitting all the big spots out west and stuff. And but he was like, dude, all I can think about is what it's going to cost me
No.
because of the price of diesel, right? Because they're coming from Alabama, right?
See, he
They're
doesn't
talking
know the
about
trick, though.
Yellowstone and red diesel.
Reefer fuel, baby.
I love it.
Which a lot of
I
people
love
don't
it.
know that, right? You know, it's like when you look at farm equipment, they have reefer fuel, and they dye it red. That way, you know, I've never been pulled over for it, but in theory, the state police can pull you over and they drop a dipstick down in your tank, and if it comes out red, you know, so reefer fuel is not taxed and it's much lower, and I think they buy it in higher quantities. So when you look at, you know, going back to the farming thing, and again, at the end of the day, you know, gas is high. It's high for too long or longer what people would like. And, you know, I don't care if hamburger meat was 50 cents a pound. If you're paying $4.50 a gallon for gas, I mean, you know, people feel that and they're going to hate it. Reefer fuel, 331 up in their neck of the woods, 344, 325. So it is a lot less, but that's still higher than what it would have been or what it was. You know, I'd probably say back in October, November timeframe or whatever. But yeah, I'm kind of curious. So any, well, I don't know any law enforcement listen to this crap anyway. But I'm like, man, my F-250, if I throw reefer fuel in that bad boy, well, the thing is this: like the first time I bought my diesel, and I went and I pulled up to like a Maverick or whatever, you know, it just pops up there, and it just says tractor or reefer, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, what if I'd have hit reefer? I don't know the difference. Well, I mean, I do now, but back then I didn't know the difference, and I think it's a pretty steep fine for using the red dye fuel. Just saying. But back to the gas. That's the issue with that is that, and it, you know, it obviously carries weight going into the midterms. You know, again, it's different if there's a month or two of you know, higher gas prices, but when you've essentially doubled in gas price and you go 4 or 5 months, you know, and I hear the rhetoric, you know, it's going to drop, it's going to drop, it's going to drop, it'll drop like a rock or whatever. And maybe it will. You've already hit how far into this thing are we now? You know, over a couple months. So you get to where you're going 3 or 4 months, and fuel is more expensive during the summertime anyway.
Yep.
Right. So, you know, you get to that, people don't tend to forget that. And again, you know, prices tend to go up very quickly. When they come back down, they tend to float a little bit, right? You don't get that $2 drop the next day.
No,
I'll tell you what,
it's
and
funny,
they're
as
loving
they're-
it. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just saw it come across the ticker. Reuters just reported that U.S. oil prices, crude, are up $1 in late trading because investors doubt there's going to be a breakthrough in the Iran peace talks.
Well, yeah,
I
I think the last time we released an episode was April 15th, I believe, and I think we were kind of all in the same. Well, no, maybe the one before that. Actually, we were like, "This has got to end quick." You know, it can't drag on, and I still kind of hold to that. It seems like it's been stagnating a little bit to me. As usual, I'm gonna take the middle road. I'm gonna be the milquetoast fence sitter and be like, you know, we'll see. But I will say that it does seem to be stagnating just a bit. The China visit didn't go exactly, at least in the short term, exactly like I thought it would. Things kind of seem to be like still water, you know, right now. Very still water, you know, no wind in the sails. That's kind of what it seems like right now. You know, so I'm not going to defend or whatever what's going on, but I'm not overly optimistic right now. It's like, okay, there's got to be some movement. There needs to be some movement on this. But I'm really not seeing it. I don't think that. I really think we want that uranium. I really think we want that enriched uranium, and I think we want it for a number of reasons. I think Trump wants it for a number of reasons. I think that seizing whatever enriched uranium they have might lead back to some dirty dealings with the JCPOA and Obama and Hillary Clinton. I think it could possibly lead to that. Not trying to be all conspiratorial, but it does kind of make sense. And the fact that they're even talking about it is, it's not just about it's got to be more than about them just having, 60% enriched uranium, which, to remind the listeners, there is no civilian application for 60% enriched uranium, zero. The only application for any uranium, I think 20% enriched uranium, just 20%, are used in small reactors like that are in nuclear submarines and stuff like that. It's very complicated why they use 20, but most enriched uranium in reactors is 3 to 6%. Yeah, we've talked about all this before. I don't want to bore anybody, but so, Roger, what do you think?
Well, UAE, I think UAE, the one who's building the pipeline around the strait, they reported today, I think they're at 50%. So again, long term, there are right things, they're going in the right direction. It's just short term. It's like, hey, man, especially when you got midterms coming up, it all comes back to gas prices, and people get fed up. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, which, I shouldn't throw out Libertarian. They're not even a real party anymore. They've actually come to the point where they hate America. Like that's what their state platform, they hate the country. But, I don't care who you are, what side of the aisle you're on, you continue paying, $4 or $5 a gallon for gas. There's just not a lot of tolerance for it. And I think when you come to the midterms, it's even though in the long term, I think we're doing the right things. And dude, hell, outside the gas prices, I think the blockade should be like a standard tour for, seamen, right? Every sailor should have to go out there and do 6 months on a blockade. And how badass was it for the Marines? You see the ship the other day? I think it was yesterday that tried to break the blockade, and the Marines went down there. I bet that's pretty badass. I love that aspect of it. I think it's a genius move, but you got to figure out the gas, and I don't know how long it takes for that pipeline to be built. I don't know how much, more we can get out of Venezuela, things like that. But again, those are long-term, long-term strategies that doesn't necessarily help the price of gas right now, which is going to be a problem coming to the midterms. And I guess it's a good transition as you look at great day for, overall for, I guess you could say, the conservatives. When you look at Massey being voted out, awesome, lost his primary. Dude, that dude was a 7-time incumbent. That's a pretty big deal. Even though they dropped a fuck ton of money, 7-time incumbent. You look at Cassidy, didn't win his primary. And then you look at I think the state legislature in Indiana, I think Trump backed candidates there were 6 or 7. Something like that. So, he's still playing, still playing the kingmaker there, and apparently still has a lot of influence there. But the closer we get, and I don't know, one of you guys can jump in, the closer we get to the midterms, dude, the House, the GOP might actually keep the House. It's looking more and more like they're going to.
We'll see. I think it really depends on how this Iran thing goes. They've got to figure they have to figure this thing out, right? Because when we talked about this originally, it was, hey, we all agreed anything you do that negatively impacts Iran is a good thing. All right. But what you can't do is get drug into another open-ended quagmire in that region of the world. You can't do it. You cannot do it. And I don't see an end to this. And they're not communicating. Granted, it's fine. You don't want to advertise what you want, what you're doing. I get that. That's fine. But again, if you don't give Joe Sixpack a reasonable benchmark on when that gas price is going to come down, and next thing you know, it doesn't matter who's, candidates, this, that, and the other. Guess what? When Joe Sixpack, because guess what's going to happen? They're not going to go in there and vote for the left. They're just not going to show up. That's what's going to happen. They're just not going to show up. And, again, completely anecdotal, but, a lot of talk around here has been, well, why? Why do I need to go vote? My gas is over $4 a gallon right now. And groceries aren't any cheaper. And it's they're not going to go, they're not going to go vote for, what's that clown from Tennessee? At the House, the state level, I forget the performative, the Timu Jesse Jackson guy. They're just not going to show up because it's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter who's in the White House, what party's in control. I still pay a lot for gas and and ground beef. So they've got to bring this Iran thing to a close. If they want the uranium, if it's like, hey, we are going to take the enriched uranium. Guess what? There's a capability to do that. We have a capability that does that very thing. Go get it.
How did the midterms go in 2022?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I don't have that in front of me right now.
Just very interesting. I don't think it wasn't a red wave. I remember that. It was not a red wave.
No.
And yeah, and prices weren't good then. I don't disagree with you. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, going to the Iran thing though. Like the off ramp, right? If we just like leave now, just okay, we're opening it up. It's all good. We're confident their missile capability. You could spin it any way you wanted. We're confident their ballistic missile capability. We've degraded it to a point where it really doesn't matter. And we're going to be in talks with mediated by whomever to not enrich any more uranium, and that's degraded too. And we're just going to pull out because it's all good now. And Iran, you just be good, and we pull out. And everything goes back to normal. I think that's what Iran is counting on. And I think that, because Iran are, historically pretty good negotiators. And I think that's what they're counting on. And they're waiting it out. I really believe what's left of the regime is waiting it out. And let's be honest, right now, the regime is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. That's what's holding that country together right now, that and the Quds Force. Yeah, so I think that they're waiting it out. I think the Iranian people are definitely suffering, but to say that we're winning right now is like, how much are they willing to put up with? And I think they're willing to put up with a lot to hold their regime intact. And all they have to do is wait a couple more months. It's almost June. So June, July, August, we're in primary season at that point. It's like they want to wait it out and hope that we just turn around and tuck tail and gas prices start to come down, so on and so forth. So they're counting on that. In my view, I think they are.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, and they know the deal, right? I mean, again, it goes back to what we've been saying the whole episode. People don't like paying high gas prices, and you go into the summer. It's unfathomable that you would get into the summer and fall, especially with the midterms, and have prices that high. Now, the only benefit, and going back to what you're saying with 2022, that's the one where Dems picked up +3 on the Senate, and then the House went GOP, but it was by a smaller margin. The one benefit that you have is that Trump's not on the ballot, by name. You'll have those that are endorsed by him or whatever. So your local races, it's always interesting to hear the rhetoric that comes out of the local candidates, because it tends to be a little bit different than what's said at the national level. Maybe not all in support. Like, hey, how much pull do you have as your local House of Representative or your senator or what have you? And so they can kind of downplay that a lot. But I would be hard pressed to believe that we get into primary season or beyond primary season to general election season with prices this high. At that point, I mean, you're asking for losses, right? At the voting booth. I mean, you're asking for losses in races because people, again, they just won't tolerate $4 or $5 a gallon for very much longer. And I think 100% with you, man. I think Iran's like, hey, man, we're just going to squat and hold, right? I mean, because here's the other thing. It's like Afghanistan. When you look at the Taliban, this and that, there's nowhere else to go. Okay, so you bomb the shit out of them, which again, kill them all, man. There's nowhere else for them to go. So they don't have a choice but to sit there and hunker down, because that's all they're going to do. And from what I can tell, the depleted or the enriched uranium seems to be the hang up. At least that's what's been put out. What I can see on the news is that they don't want to give it up. They want to hold on to it. And obviously we want it. And according to Trump earlier, he said, we'll probably just throw it away. Hey, we're not throwing away enriched uranium, not at 60, 65% or whatever, but that seems to be the hang up. And I think Pakistan right now is actually, they have an envoy in Iran trying to get them to accept the deal. So, I agree with you that when you look historically, I mean, they're going to lie. They're going to try to cheat. They're going to try to steal. They're going to try to push this thing off because they know that, or they're hoping that the American people, will get tired of paying that and start to put, pressure on folks that are running for office. As far as, and I've seen a lot of that of what Josh is saying as well. You get a lot of those people that are, one, it's just dumb, but I've seen a lot of it around here, at least on X and some other sites where it's like, well, it doesn't really make a difference. I'm just not going to vote. I'll just sit at home. Well, you know what? A damn sure ain't gonna get any better by electing a Democrat. That goes back to, I know it's a little bit off topic, or I guess we're transitioning a little bit, but dude, have you seen like the latest stuff with Plattner? Like his Reddit posts?
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny. They go and they talk to Hakeem and Elizabeth Warren, like, hey, do you still endorse it? Like, dude, they are off their freaking rocker. Like, what the hell is wrong with these people? I mean, they're batshit crazy.
No, they absolutely are, right? And Planner, I mean, everything from his, tongue cough tattoo, his SS, and it was like, dude, that's not only. And we talked about it before. Luke, kind of gave the, there's only a few places in Europe that you can that someone will actually do that.
That's right. And Croatia is one of the very, very few.
Yeah. And for that dude to be like, I didn't know what that was. It's like, dude, not only was that a Third Reich tactic, like that was an SS, right? Like that was, I mean, that's whatever. But yeah, no, I get that. But here dude, your average Joe six-pack in Texas, your average Joe six-pack in North Carolina doesn't care if Planter gets elected. They're not going to go vote for him, right? Obviously. But at the same time, they're not going to go vote, period, because it's like, okay, so I had really expensive gas then. I've got really expensive gas now. Like, nothing's cheaper. Like, fine, whatever. They need to figure out a thing to the Iran. They've got to figure out an off-ramp, and they've got to do it soon.
I do agree with you. I'm not taking anything away from what you said, except for one thing. And I said this the other night when that ex-Navy SEAL dude beat Massey. I don't know what's going on in Kentucky. Like, Senate races are a little bit easier to track than House races. It's because I don't know what's going on there in Northern Kentucky or wherever the hell it is near Louisville, even though Louisville's not in his district. I don't know what's going on there. It's like, it's really hard to say. Same thing with Maine. I have no idea. Who knows? Maybe the Maine voters are just so sick of what's her name.
Susan Collins.
Collins, yeah. So sick of her that they'll just vote for anybody. Or maybe they're upset with gas prices too. But, I've been guilty of being out of touch before and being in my bubble. Case in point, Mitt Romney versus Obama back in the day. I was way off on that one, man. I was so inside my bubble that when Obama beat Romney, I was like, okay, I need to change something. I need to change the way I'm looking at things. But here in Texas, and I may be guilty of this again, but I think you could double the price of gas tomorrow, and Tallarico is still not going to beat. Why am I blanking on names tonight? Our AG, our Attorney General Paxton. He's just not going to happen. He's Timu Beto O'Rourke. It's just, as far as the House races here, I don't know. I know that that our current rep right now is not going to lose. That's just not going to happen. But I live in a very red area. Is Ronnie Jackson, by the way. So it's hard to say on a national level. You can get trends and stuff like that. That's why I brought up 2022, because man, 2022 was rough, man. 2021 and 2022 were rough years. And, it's hard to say. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think you're right. They do need to sort this stuff out to ensure the victory, because there are bigger forces at play here, and folks, I think there may be one guy who listens. His name's Garrett. He might start listening to this one. Believe it or not, Garrett is a Massey fan, so I'm trying not to piss him off too much with this. Massey, I'm a little bit ambivalent. I think, I'm more of a Ron Paul kind of. If I'm gonna vote for a libertarian, if I would vote for them, But Massey to me seemed like a little bit too much of a showman, a little bit too much of a this or that, and he did lose. So, geez, where was I going with that? Completely lost my train of thought there. Sorry, guys. I was going somewhere,
and
it
I think
just don't you
Massey,
hate
I
it when
think
that happens?
when you look at his last year, I think he only voted with the Republicans like 77% of the time. They look at his total time, they're like, oh, 91%. When you look at what is it, the 119th Congress, whatever the heck it is, I think he's only voted with the conservatives like 70 some odd percent of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's voted with the Democrats 20 some odd percent.
You know,
but I mean, he's a libertarian. He's not going to vote with the conservatives every time.
You know, yeah, I can respect like an independent, you know, who there's been a few independents out there. I think that Fetterman is like as close to an independent as you can get, you know, even though he votes with the Democrats the majority of the time, but occasionally he stands up and says something like that's halfway sane, you know. It's like, why call yourself a libertarian? It's like, I try to listen to Dave Smith just to try to understand. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to listen to the dude. And my problem with the big L libertarians, because I think the three of us would probably consider ourselves small L libertarians. Small L libertarians. I mean, I agree with that philosophy. But it's like big L libertarians, their worldview, they live in a world that just does not exist. It doesn't exist. You know, and Dave Smith, it's like, man, that's great what you're saying right now, but that is just not the world we live in, brother. It's very, very, very frustrating, man. Very frustrating. And again, with Thomas Massey, I was a little bit ambivalent. Oh, bigger picture. That's what I was saying. So folks may be listening to us being like, oh, all y'all want to do is win elections. Josh just wants Iran to be over so that we can maintain the House and Senate. It's not just that, man. It's not just that. It's we're looking down the barrel of 2028 right now. And who knows? It's looking good right now based on the candidates that the other side has. But we've got, you know, a couple of justices that might be on their way out between 2028 and 2032. So it's like, you know, we've always said it, and Josh agrees, but Roger and I really bang the drum on this. It's never been about Trump, and Josh voted for him 3 times. So I'm not trashing Josh. It's always been about the Supreme Court. That's what it's about. And we're coming up on a time now, man. You know, as much as I love Thomas, the best thing to do would be to hold on to the House, the Senate, and for Thomas to retire in 2027 and put somebody else in there that's very young. And it's Alito too, right? Is Alito? Yeah.
Alito.
Let's keep that. Oh, one more thing. So guys, do you think that if let's say the worst thing happens in 2028, it's a Democrat landslide and they've got a super majority and they control the House, the Senate, the presidency, they're going to nuke the filibuster. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to try to make Puerto Rico and DC a state. It could be, I don't know, man.
It depends.
They're talking about it.
They're talking about it because right now they can't do anything about it. So they're talking about it, right? That's what whips up the base, right? That's what keeps the base, you know, oh, we just got to get to the next election. We just got to get to the next election. That they're talking about it. But again, it depends on who is, you know, in charge running the show. Because if it's some of the old school Dems, that's not going to
They won't do it. You're right.
They won't do it.
Those are getting fewer and far, but those are getting fewer and further
100%.
in between.
Yeah. No, and we've said it. It's like, hey, you know, they're still, you know, the turtle's gone. No, he just, you know, he went. Once you get the norms that we've come to expect from, you know, both chambers, those norms are slowly going to go away because you're going to get the younger on both sides, but especially on the left, because you're going to get the Ilhans if she doesn't get deported. God, deport that lady. You're going to get the AOCs. You're going to get the firebrands in there who are like, you know what? They are the students of Mao's revolution. And they are going to burn it to the ground, and they are going to kill everybody. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They are. Those are the ones you got. They get in charge. Yeah. DC, Puerto Rico's a state. Guam's a state. dude, the filibuster's gone. The Supreme Court's going to be 101 justices. Yeah, they get in charge. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be wild.
And as they bust down our doors in the middle of the night, Roger and I are gonna be thinking, why the hell did Josh talk us into doing this podcast and putting all this stuff out in the world? Because now we're going to the gulag.
Delete.
Oh,
you know what? Late. Talking about the SCOTUS's, SCOTUS justices, you realize John Roberts is 71?
Well, I mean, dude, yeah, you could replace him. I don't know that anybody would really notice. They'd be like, "Who's that? Who's the?"
Well, no, I'm just saying he's 71. I mean, he's no spring chicken. You look at Clarence Thomas at 77, Alito's at 76, Sotomayor is 71, but she's got health problems. Like, I actually think she would probably retire if she was in any other position other than a justice. Because I think she's got some pretty serious health problems. I can't remember exactly what they are.
She certainly looks like she does. She does not look healthy.
And then you got John Roberts, who's 71. You know, I mean, unfortunately, fuck, dude. Ketanji Brown Jackson's 55. We got her for at least another 20 years.
God, she is so dumb. Oh my God.
Yeah, we've got her for a while, unless she, whatever. Here's, I'm not gonna say it because I want to get this episode banned. Here's the play, right? So here's the play. Let's say Trump wants to run Rubio instead of Vance, right? They're like, hey, Rubio's, he's going to be our guy. Well, I 100% believe Ron DeSantis is going to run again. And he's going to run on his record as governor in Florida, which he has been absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. Right. And unless he teams up, okay, hey, him and little Marco, are a team, or it's him and Vance, whatever the case is, you can take Ron DeSantis. You might be able to take Ron DeSantis out of the picture to make it easier for Vance or Rubio by sitting Ron DeSantis and, Clarence Thomas or Alito down and being like, hey, I need one of you guys to go because Ron DeSantis is going to the Supreme Court. You get Ron DeSantis, who's young, and that guy he's a conservative. He is as conservative as they come, and he has a proven record of, sticking it to the left, every way he can. And you take him off the plate, Rubio and Vance, like, okay, I don't have to worry about Ron DeSantis, in the primaries. So I don't know.
Let me ask you this.
I'm sure some smart people have thought about that, but
let me ask you this. So remove that thought. Would the three people that we have now leading, which I feel really good about over the next 4, 8, 12 years, between JD Vance, Marco Rubio, and Ron DeSantis. So the way too early, what does this look like? What does this race look like during the next presidential election with those three as it stands now? What do you think?
As it stands right now, the smart. I haven't given much thought to a VP ticket, but I think that right now, as it stands right now, Rubio is hot right now. So Rubio and maybe Sarah Huckabee Sanders ticket. I think it would be smart to get a female or something like that. I don't know. And I like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I think she's good, but definitely Rubio. But I haven't given much thought to
the last Sarah VP candidate didn't work out well.
What's that?
I said the last female VP candidate named Sarah didn't.
Big difference between those two. Big difference between those two. Boy,
I agree with Luke. Right now, Rubio's hot. Vance has been a ghost. But you've seen him here and there, but dude, he has not been out in front at all. So I think you have a very strong ticket with Rubio and Vance. Or I think you have, I don't know that Vance is going to want to do another VP, thing. But I think you got a very strong ticket with Rubio and DeSantis.
Oh, that'd be killer.
God.
But who would be who would run as president? Who would run as VP? That's my question. Is like, do you think any of those would say,
Rubio as VP? You could run Rubio as VP, dude. Here's the thing: if we go in
We're about to free Cuba.
Bro, if we go in and we rendition Raul Castro and Rubio is out front with that, and like he's in there, dude, every single Cuban in South Florida is going to vote for him for the rest of their lives.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to have to be those D-boys are going to have to be very careful with Skeletor if they try to rendition him because, dude, that dude's old and frail.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, there's a reason why Ratcliffe was down there. We may not have to go rendition him.
Exactly. Was Rubio down there? I saw rumors that Rubio was actually there.
Here's the thing. Here's the next person. We talk about like, Massey was ousted, in fact, I'm not going to refer to him as Massey anymore. He's Pinecombe. When you put that, I actually hate you for putting that in the text the other day. When you dropped that in there, I was like, Pinecombe, what? And then you said what it was. I was like, I could have gone the rest of my life not knowing that and been perfectly happy. So anyway, the Turtle's gone. The next person that needs to go is John Thune.
He ain't going nowhere.
John Thune's guy. Dude, that dude needs to be primaried. He needs to be the next one because he recessed the Senate until next month.
Yeah, of course.
They're not gonna they're gonna miss Trump's 1 June deadline to pass the ICE and CBP budget because John Thune.
Yep. Man, deep state still exists, brother.
They need to run that dude out of town on a rail. That guy, he's absolutely worthless. Absolutely worthless human being.
How popular is he in South Dakota?
Who cares? There's like 10 people in South Dakota.
How popular do you have to be in South Dakota exactly?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, that's the only way, you primary and run him out, right? He's got to lose.
He's got to be popular. I bet he's super popular.
He's probably super popular, and he goes to the local sheriff's camp pancake breakfast once every couple of months and stuff. And
you know what pisses me off, and what pisses me off going back to Cuba is that if they can pull this off, it's historic. I was having a conversation with somebody the other night, and I'm like, going back to Iran, and I get what Josh is saying. I agree with 95% of it. But these are major geopolitical shifts. And I acknowledge what both of y'all are saying as far as Joe Sixpack doesn't see the big picture. We don't think like China, right? Where these geopolitical shifts that we're talking about right now it literally will change the world. It'll literally will change the world. And it'll change the trajectory of China, outpacing the US and being the superpower. It takes time. The problem is we don't have a lot of time. But going back to because of Joe Sixpack, because of all that, if you were told, Josh and Joe Sixpack, if it could be communicated in the pea brain of most American people, I hate to say that. Hey, if you can just hold out for a little while, here's what it'll look like. And you could explain it to them like they were a third grader. Would you be willing to sacrifice it? The next question is, would they or not? I don't know. But that's what pisses me off about Cuba. It's been dealing with this since the 1960s, right? And if we turned Cuba around, as Venezuela has been turned around, and we weren't dealing with that for not long at all, that is a major geopolitical shift and a major historical win. But most people, this is what pisses me off about it, won't give a shit. They won't. It's like you just lived through, it's almost like the Berlin Wall coming down, and people not giving a shit about it. It's like, really? Like, are we, it's again, going back to the Zoomers and the millennials, it's like, so what, Cuba? Big deal. I don't care. Doesn't affect me at all. But for those of us who lived under the specter of communism, nuclear war, it's just like, we want it to happen so bad and we get really excited about it because it's like you're living through history. Most people don't give a shit. They don't. And in fact, they'll call it a negative thing.
Yeah, well, and that's just Cuba, though. I mean, we've talked about this as well. It's just they didn't grow up with Red Dawn, right? They didn't grow up with the, with the, like you said, the Berlin Wall and stuff like that. So they don't see it. They don't understand why, China is not our enemy. or China is our enemy. They don't understand why all of that, those dynamics exist. Um, the, with Cuba, as if we if we take Raul Castro out of there, the CIA is going to come in and claim credit, right? When they haven't done anything of significance on that island since the '60s, right? Like nothing. They're gonna be the first ones to swoop in and be like, "We had it all planned. We did it." It was, they're gonna get a feather in the cap. I guarantee you. But here's the other thing. To your question, would I be willing to sacrifice? Hey, we just need you to put your head down for 6 months, grind it out. Sacrifice is going to be a little rough, but in 6 months, Cuba will no longer be a communist country. Sure. I'll entertain it. But what has the government done in the last, I don't know, pick your number of decades that makes you believe that they're actually going to accomplish that? Right? With the Iran thing. Hey, Middle Eastern country, we just need to, give us 6 months and we will be in and out. You going to take that bet?
If it can be communicated, that's the problem. Is no one's, our leadership, our representation, leadership is really not good at communicating the big picture, and they understand why. Is because the average American has an attention span of a gnat and is not willing to sacrifice anything. And I'll give you this: it's like, dude, we should have done this Iran thing way long time ago. And we
100%.
didn't. And we had them on both sides. And to your point, we effed it up. We effed it up because it got caught up in bureaucracy, and you got a bunch of war college grads and super educated people, running that war, which was an absolute disaster. So yes, you're absolutely right. The thing is, and I don't know if you'd acknowledge this or not, there is a little bit different feeling this time around with Trump. A little bit different feeling, and the exhibit A on that one would be Venezuela. Like, that is different. All of us were like, whoa, this is different. How it's going to be dealt with in the long run. So far, so good. If you really dig into what's going on in Venezuela right now, it looks good for the United States, even though gas prices aren't going down. Like, long term, that looks pretty good right now, and it's not on any of the headlines. So yeah, I get you, man. This is a sticky wicket, as they used to say. It's a tough thing, and asking GWAT vets like the three of us to trust the plan, bro. It's like, yeah, we trusted the plan for like 20 years, and we got the Afghan pullout, and we got the destruction of Mosul. We got the third, Fallujah. It's like, what the it is tough, and you've got a point. It's just, yeah, that's why I say, Josh, I know I'm talking too much. That's why I say I want to trust the plan with Trump. I want to, but I need to see, especially with this Iran, I need to see something other than still waters, because what I'm seeing right now is still waters and no wind in the sails. So it's like, I'm willing to give some rope, but that rope is running out.
Yeah, I'll say this, and then Roger can give his piece. The neocons and everything, like Bush Senior. All right, Panama. If Venezuela turns out like Panama, massive win, just a completely massive win, right? And you're right, things do look good down there right now. Massive, just a colossal win, especially with everything that just historical South, the Latin America in general. Right, everything that's going on in Bolivia right now, with Paz trying to keep him in power, they're on the verge of a coup, right? The left is on the verge of ousting the conservative government. Bush Senior, Panama, great. Hey man, guess what? Desert Storm. Guess what we did? We got in there, we laid waste, we crushed the Iraqi army. They went from the 4th to the 40th largest army in the world. And then guess what we did? We closed it out. It was like, we're done. Yeah, we left some, we saw bases there and stuff like that. But as far as like just an open-ended war, no, we didn't do that. So yeah, man, I'm a little gun shy when somebody tells me to trust the plan on a conflict in the Middle East, and there's no actual off ramp, on the horizon. That doesn't, mm-mm, it doesn't set really well.
Well, no off ramp that we're aware of. I mean, so far I like what's happened in this administration. So, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt, but it goes back to what we've been harping on, gas prices. How long does Joe Sixpack, say, yeah, I trust the process when you go 4 months, 5 months, let's say it goes 6, 7, 8 months, right? Like that shit's going to run out super, super fast. And, I, in one aspect, the one thing I like about how Trump is operating is like I don't care, and I don't even understand why. Well, I do understand it because it's TDS, but they talk about Trump's approval numbers and this and that. He doesn't give an F what his approval numbers are. He's not running for a third term. What does he give? Like if I was in my second term and like him, where he is a businessman making money and he's president, it's like give a shit with my, he's got an agenda. Whatever that is, he's going to do whatever he can to accomplish that agenda. And I think at the end of the day, he figures history, will look back on him and judge him favorably. Right. Which if he does what he, if we close up the Iran thing and we free the shit out of Cuba, dude, you need to put him on Mount Rushmore. I mean, that's incredible because I would tell you this I don't care if it's JD Vance. I don't care if it's Rubio, and I don't care if it was RDS. Nobody would have gone into Venezuela. Right now.
That was a risk.
Done it. Yeah. None of them would have done what he did in Iran, and none of them would have even thought to throw their own blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. But again, comes back to gas, and you gotta, you have to deal with that. The bigger picture there, and we talk about this because there are a lot of proxy groups that Iran controls, and really that's what you look at, right? And who knows what the intelligence shows? And again, it's probably some CIA analyst, right? But that's what you look at is, tactical nukes, nuclear weapons making out into the hands of proxies. And, not as, for us now, we're off the battlefield. So the threat's not so close to us. But there are a lot of folks that still operate out there and will operate out there. And those are one of the threats that you have to try to mitigate. And I'd be kind of curious to see, we'll never see it, but what the intel looks like that, I think it had to be something more than just the 65% enriched uranium. To take us into Iran the way he went in there. Last topic real quick, because I know we got a few minutes left. So we've touched on it a little bit. 2030 census comes up. It's looking like right now, if everything stays on trend, and I think we talked about this a little bit last episode, but just through population shift, it looks like the Democrats can lose up to like 21 seats.
From your lips to God's ears.
So what's the Democrat playbook from here to then? I mean, dude, you can't lose 21 seats. Like you won't have the House for another decade. So what's the play?
Pack the court.
No, we did go through this, right? We did go through this with the Democrats controlling the House because they controlled the House for how many years? It was quite a while.
Long time. That's back when they were sane.
Yeah. Yeah, and there wasn't as big of a push, everybody was more, you had more moderates, but like, dude, what is the deal between now and they got to do something. You can't go into 2030 saying we're just going to give up 21 seats. You'll never win the House again.
Yeah, I don't know about the census stuff. I'm skeptical of the optimism on that because it just seems too good to be true, given the influx of, I don't know, between 10 and 50 million people. It's tough to say. It's tough to say.
Well, first off, is there and I should probably know this, but is there a law that prohibits non-citizens from completing the census?
Well, no, I think they actually count non-citizens.
Well,
isn't that
they
the
do.
point?
Well, they do, right? So, I mean,
right.
They would have to come out. They would have to pass legislation saying that non-citizens are not allowed to be counted. Right.
Well, which they won't. No, they won't do that.
But my point is, with the current population projections that have happened already, right, to date.
Oh, so you're just talking about general.
California is down 4 seats just based on population.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I look at is
answering your question on what are they going to do. Here's what they're going to do. because you don't need a Congress to approve this. You don't need the House. You don't need a
Fuck, they're just going to print off a bunch of goddamn census ballots.
Well, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, which I'm ashamed to admit I've gone down the census rabbit hole before on how they actually do it, because a lot of people don't send it back in, even though it's illegal. You're obligated, you're enjoined to send it in. Most people, a lot of people don't. So there, yeah, I was like, incriminating yourself on a podcast. Anyway, there's all these algorithms that go into it where, they take in all of these things. They look at water usage, they look at electricity usage, all this stuff. There's a lot of different things that go into it. So to answer your question, what are they going to do? They're just going to change the metrics. They're just going to change the metrics. The Census Bureau is going to change they're going to have the quote unquote deep state people come in there and change the metrics so it won't be so devastating. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do, especially if they're not in control. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to change the algorithms and the metrics to not be so devastating. That is my call. Boom, take that to the bank. It's not going to be as great as everyone says it's going to be. I'm telling you right now.
Either they're going to do that or they're just going to be, boxes of census forms that mysteriously show up. That's what.
Or no boxes.
Yeah, or no boxes.
Will be, I'm just saying, with a stroke of, you change the algorithm just a little bit, you can alter the census by hundreds of thousands. By just tweaking a little thing with water usage in this part of LA or San Diego or Phoenix or wherever it is, or South Texas, stuff like that. I'm telling you, dude, this is not going to go the way.
Check this out. This is unbelievable. Yeah, and this goes to your point. They were different Democrats back in the day, right? So you have to remember that. You have to caveat it. You know what the longest uninterrupted period Democrats controlled the House is?
How
many years?
Yeah. Okay. Is it decades?
Yes.
32 years.
40 years.
Oh,
From 1955 to 1995, the Dems controlled the House. But a lot of what you're talking about, they were talking about, again, this is just coming through Claude, but coming through the Nixon years and the Reagan years, you had the Southern Democrats. You had a lot of moderates there that would actually cross the aisle left or right. So there just wasn't as much polarization. So there wasn't as much pull to necessarily take the House as there is now. 40 years.
That's wild.
We said it before, and I don't want to be a doomer, coming up on the closing this out, but this is just a different Democrat Party than it was back then. We survived all that. We survived all that. It's different now with your AOCs and, Luke, close out. I'm done. Yeah. Okay, guys. But yeah, I'm not trying to be a doomer, but it is what it is. But I'm telling you, guys, we are going to endeavor to persevere to record once a week from now on.
Oh God, no,
it's getting worse.
Stop lying.
It's getting worse, man. It's getting worse. It's not
that day job thing, man.
It is, and it's like we're in our, I don't think all three of us in our 50s yet, but we're getting close. It's like we kind of thought things would slow down by now,
dude.
Crazy.
So I know because we were going to record yesterday, and I got my second shingle shot. Holy shit, dude! If it wasn't the threat of getting shingles on your eyeballs, like I wouldn't have done it. That was miserable. That was completely horrible. That's like the sickest I've been since I got my last shingle shot. But those two shots, I haven't been that sick, and I can't tell you how long.
Well, that's a good place to close it out. It's like Roger got his shingle shot, and we'll close it out by saying that everybody out there from Culper's Canteen Cup, make sure you get your hantavirus vaccine and your Ebola vaccine, because those are the next big thing. Until next time, everybody, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured.
Later.